shortly after the response from Jay-Z, you start to see the ball rolling. Because again, Jay-Z and his entourage and his lawyers, his handlers, his connections, corporate ties, they don't just make these dry threats. They don't just make these empty promises. In particular, when you're dealing with the guy who is the forefront, the flagship of the entire operation. And so you start to see the ball rolling. People start to say that, you know, they're reaching out, they're trying to get information, and what they're doing is investigating, right? You levied a very serious accusation against a man under the guise of a Jane Doe. With that response, the lawyer responds, and then he flips the response and says, "Ooh, he's very emotional." That's exactly how an attacker would act. That's how someone that's guilty would act. They play this game as lawyers where if they don't ask for an amount of money, they don't really view it as extortion. And so what you will hear the lawyer reference is, yo, all we did was ask to have a conversation with him, and he went off like that, right? Man, this is high level game, man. We know how y'all play. We know that you trying to ask for some money without asking for some money. What the conversation is going to be about, I ain't never did this. There is no conversation to be had with me about a 13-year-old in some kind of weird night. There's no conversation to be had with me, right? I think the interesting part in this is Jay-Z has partnered himself with Kendrick Lamar, who has levied these kind of claims all year against Drake, right? And so for Jay-Z to be this serious about these claims, I think he understands what it's doing to Drake. And so it's interesting to see how Universe responds to all of this. Now, this alleged accuser came out, and this is what she said on NBC. Let's look at this.
You should always advocate for yourself and be a voice for yourself. You should never let what somebody else did ruin or run your life.
A 38-year-old mother from Alabama who has filed a lawsuit accusing Sean Diddy Combs and Jay-Z of raping her.
And be a voice for yourself. You should never let what somebody else did ruin or run your life.
A 38-year-old mother from Alabama who has filed a lawsuit accusing Sean Diddy Combs and Jay-Z of raping her when she was 13 years old is speaking out to NBC News for the first time. She asked us not to reveal her identity.
What made you want to come forward and talk today?
Because I think that I've been quiet long enough about what I've been through, and it's been hard enough to be quiet. But it's a chapter of my life that I'd like to close.
An NBC News review of her account found inconsistencies with her allegations. She says that she went to the MTV Video Music Awards in 2000 to catch a glimpse of her favorite celebrities.
You weren't scared to be all alone?
No, with having autism is like feeling like you live your life in a shatterproof juggle ball. The world's on fire. The fire is inside the ball with you, but there's no way for you to get out.
In addition to having autism, the woman says she suffered a head injury. The night of the 2000s VMAs, she says a friend drove her from Rochester, New York to Manhattan, a more than 5-hour drive. Her attorney provided NBC News with the name of the friend who has since died. The woman says she spoke to Combs' limo driver who offered her a ride to an after party.
I stumbled upon Diddy's driver who told me that I was exactly what Diddy was looking for.
What did you think when he said that to you?
I thought it meant that I was just pretty.
She went to a White House, she says, where she spoke to musicians Benji Madden and his brother.
I'm talking to Benji Madden about his tattoo because, I have about his tattoo that's the Last Supper, because I have a religious background. So it was just something to talk about.
In a statement to NBC News, a representative of the Maddens confirmed that they did not attend the 2000 VMAs and that they were on tour in the Midwest at the time. At the after party, she says she had a drink that made her feel woozy. Then she says Combs and Carter took turns raping her while a female celebrity watched.
JC comes in and rapes me. Well, he at that point I was fighting, trying to get away from him, and he put his hand over my mouth and told me to stop it, cut the
So when I first heard the accusations, of course, like everyone else, one of the first questions I had was, how did this child get to this venue, right? Where does this child live? What's the proximity from house to where the actual party took place? Were these gentlemen in the event? If we listen to what's been alleged, they want me to believe that there's a child walking around a Hollywood party and no one finds that unreasonable. What's interesting about Jay is when you attack Jay, it kind of gets bigger than hip hop. You kind of attack more than hip hop. You kind of get over into Hollywood and even into corporate America. So it's interesting. I don't care who it is. If you're dealing with children in any kind of way, me and you got an issue. There's no circumstances where I can look over that, right? I don't care who say, how they say it, and what's going on. I don't care how much power, money, or fame you have. And so the idea that an unidentified kid can be walking around a Hollywood VMA after party sounds absurd. Now, I'm not saying that it can't happen, but I do want to say, in my opinion, if I'm around, those kind of things are just going to stick out like a sore thumb. The allegation does damage to Jay-Z. I want to be clear about that. I need people to understand that media thrives on engagement. And nothing generates clicks like controversy. I think it's important that we always keep that in context. So the stories like something like this with Jay-Z, these allegations aren't just reported. They dealt with outrage. And that was interesting because Jay-Z is one of the people that you see media have an adverse reaction to these rumors and allegations, right? Some people kind of try to walk the fence. They treated it much different than they treated Diddy. Man, I seen people come out defending Jay-Z that did not even defend themselves. I've seen people come out defending Jay-Z and standing out on the hill for Jay-Z that didn't even defend themselves. I want to be clear. I don't believe that it was true either. And that's before the young lady came out and said some of the things that you seen in this video with some of the inconsistencies in her statements. Now, here's what I also find interesting. Although she has these inconsistencies, they have not dropped the case. I do understand that there'll be some consequences for pulling out now because the damage is already done and you will be held accountable either way. So at this point, that lawyer is all in because, listen, Jay and his legal team is really going to attack this in a way where you're going to pay for the damages that you've caused this gentleman that has lived on this certain constitution in front of the eyes of the public for so long. I don't even know how you quantify the emotional residue for something like this. When I have a child this age, when I'm dealing with so many different dynamics of life and being a leader of a culture in the way that some people look at Jay-Z. Again, it's interesting because if you are someone with $200 or $300, $400, $500, $600 million and you're a black dude that got it by way of hip hop, you start to look at it like, man, is they trying to tear the roof off of hip hop? When we deal with the black man as a whole, if we're being honest, a lot of these dudes is freakazoids. A lot of these dudes is hypersexual. Right. And so when you get money and you're able to be hypersexual and you deal with women that are hypersexual, man, you have some nights that are unforgettable. And so as you continue to climb the ladder, there's probably a lot of individuals that's looking around and saying, man, I hope some of them nights don't come back to hunt me. Some of those things don't come back to hunt me. Some people don't come back and misrepresent some of the things we did 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I'm so intentional with my conversations that I usually don't land in a scenario where I shouldn't be. I understand that admiration isn't free, right? So I try not to give my attention to things that can suck me in. Literally. I also didn't understand why this victim went and done that interview and why now? And why wouldn't the lawyer stop that? Like, what is that about? Right? There was something interesting about this young lady doing an interview with a sheet tied up where we're looking at your shadow.